Is a crime. The organisation Justice says it's criminal to allow people to die on the streets. So they've set up a squatters estate agency to deal with the problem. But is this the right way to sort it out? It's well documented that Brighton Borough has the highest homeless problem per capita in Britain. In addition to the state benefits available, the council are running a number of projects in an attempt to combat this problem, but there are still people on the street and 3,000 empty properties in the town. Justice, a group set up to oppose the Criminal Justice Act, decided to deal with the issue by establishing an estate agency advertising the availability of the empty houses. So where did the idea come from?
It came about after we had a meeting, a justice meeting, about what to do about the squatting situation in Brighton, because everyone was being chased around town, living in about, well, we had about 6 places in 5 months, and it came out of that meeting. It was just a little idea. It was meant to be a small scale shop, just to sort of like push the point that there's so many empty properties. Also, we had a directory of empty properties, which we sort of like kept not quiet, but we just like lent to people if they wanted to have a look about town and see where they could live. And it sort of like exploded into a big media circus, really.
What do you hope to achieve with this agency?
Well, the focus has changed now. At the moment, we're hoping to get it out a bit more nationwide, because it was only, as I said, it was only meant to be in Brighton. Hopefully, people will go into, will find themselves homes, really. Also, we'll put a bit more pressure on the council. We didn't think we'd have this much pressure, but it looks like we have. So hopefully, the council will actually wake up a little bit more.
So, the Squatters Estate Agency has a dual purpose. Firstly, to house homeless people, and secondly, to draw more attention to the issue of homelessness. But is it having the desired effect on the council? How do they feel about this agency?
I think it's disgusting. I feel that they are advising people how to get round the law by advertising what they can do, what they can't do. If they don't change the locks, they will have to evict them. This is cost to the person that owns the property. Now, I disagree. If people want to let the property out for housing or rooms, etc., that's up to them. We can't dictate to people what they can do, what they can't do. And this is, I feel that they are encouraging people to break the law.
How would you respond to the view that squatting is theft and that you're encouraging crime with this agency?
Theft is illegal. A crime, obviously, is illegal. Squatting isn't illegal. So there's no crime involved here.
Technically, I don't think it's theft, because you go into that building and you're just occupying a space. You're not taking the building, you're not owning it, and they still own it.
The legalities of squatting are very complicated. It can either be legal or illegal depending upon the circumstances of entry to the property. And whilst it's unlikely that Justice and the council will ever agree, Nick Sheward believes that there is a middle ground. His project, the Empty Properties Strategy, was featured on The Line a couple of weeks ago. Essentially, grants of up to £12,000 are given to owners of empty properties for renovation work, and once renovated, they're then made available to let. So what do you think about the Squatters Estate Agency that Justice have set up?
Right. I think if you look at it logically, then we actually have the same aims. We both want to see a maximisation of the use of empty properties in Brighton. We both want to see a reduction in the number of street homeless. I think where we differ is the way we go about that problem. I believe that the best way to solve the problem is to actually work with owners. And as I say, explain to them the advice and assistance that is available. So whether the property just needs a grant, again, there are a number of different ways that we can tackle that problem. If the property just needs a different way of managing, and again, we can tackle that problem as well.
But your project, I mean, it's a fabulous project, but it is a long-term project. I mean, it takes a long time to renovate a property like this. In the meantime, people are still on the streets. Isn't squatting a quicker and easier answer?
It may be a quicker and easier answer, but is it ultimately the answer that's going to make the best use of the housing stock? It doesn't intrinsically necessarily improve the actual appearance of the property or the actual structure of the property, whereas we're actually providing a long-term solution to a long-term problem.
Dr. Knapp owns this particular empty property, and with the help of a grant from the project, renovations are now almost complete. So how would he have reacted to squatters occupying his property?
Well, squatting, in my mind, is no better than theft. To move into somebody's private accommodation and take it over as though you own it is surely equivalent to theft. It's totally unjustified. This is a decent way of making these old properties available to people who need them at a reasonable price, and doing everything in a decent and proper manner.
So if the empty properties grant hadn't been made available and the property was lying derelict, would you still have had an objection to squatters coming in here?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we've seen the damage that squatters have done to numerous properties that they've been in to the town. Even one church, they went into a church and desecrated and destroyed the church.
It's not that widespread. I mean, there's always going to be an element of people who do such things which we don't advocate whatsoever. The idea is to turn homes into sustainable homes and hopefully negotiate from within with the council or the landlord.
I think there's always going to be bad publicity, and we just need places like the estate agency to prove that it's not true of all cases. It's like tarring every tenant with the same brush. There's good, there's bad. It's life. A lot of the time they're so-called squatters who go in and they claim that they've stolen all the fireplaces. They're not squatters, they're people who are going in specifically to remove objects they can sell.
The official definition of homelessness means not having your own secure and affordable accommodation. The homeless are categorised into priority and non-priority. Priority cases such as those with young children are automatically housed, albeit in bed and breakfast, by the local authorities. But for those classed as non-priority, accommodation is just so much harder to find.
Well, I don't see why this should be, because I have a number of other flats in the town which are let to single men, chiefly one or two women, who are drawing housing benefit. Clearly the money is there to pay a rent through housing benefit. The properties are there and it can be done. So I don't see any justification for anybody squatting.
I can get housing benefit, but in Brighton there's big competition for housing benefit places, and unless you've got a bond to put together in a month's rent in advance, then you can end up on the streets.
The council are aware of this financial hurdle for the non-priority homeless and have set up a scheme known as Link Up to tackle exactly this problem.
It's directed at what we call non-priority homeless people, meaning people who don't qualify for council housing. So it's trying to come up with an initiative that would help those people, and this is what Link Up is about, helping those people get into good quality accommodation. And what happens is no money actually changes hands. The money actually sits in the bank account of the charities, and it's only called on if there ever is a claim on the fund. So we're putting up what we call a guarantee for the first 4 weeks rent in advance, and a guarantee for the deposit.
That's excellent. I haven't heard of that scheme at all.
So is that perhaps something that you might find out about now and tell people about?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. If we got information on it, we put it on the counters and we tell people about it. I think that's an excellent idea.
With Justice's squatting estate agency hitting the national headlines, they feel they've succeeded in drawing more attention to the plight of the homeless. And with schemes such as Link Up, the council are also succeeding in tackling this issue. Clearly, homelessness remains an ongoing problem, but perhaps compounding the problem is a lack of communication between the two bodies. It would appear possible, though, that Link Up might just provide the building blocks necessary to help the council and Justice begin constructing an answer together.